Hi Cub Scouts of the Longhouse Council. This is Kate PELKEY with Otter Lake Farm and Fiber, and I am here to discuss soap making with you. I wanted to give you a little bit of a brief history. It's a little fascinating but long. Back in 2800 BC, which was a really long time ago, the earliest known evidence of soap making was discovered in Babylon. Fast forward a lot of years and go to 300 BC, and bathing become a regular hygienic habit of the Romans. Unfortunately, in 400 BC, when the Roman Empire fell, people stopped taking baths and they stopped following hygienic practices, and people became more ill, and certain plagues became more rampant. Unfortunately, it took quite a long time for for bathing to come back into fashion, but in 600 AD, Europeans started making soap again, and it was quite a renowned craft, and you had to be in a guild to be able to make soap. But unfortunately, only wealthy people could afford soap. So if you were not wealthy, and there were very, very few wealthy people, you were not taking baths, and if you were, it was not using soap. However, in the 1600s, soap makers came to Jamestown Colony in Virginia, and they began producing soap here in America. It was still not easy to transport soap to more rural areas, and there just weren't a lot of people in the United States, so many people made their own soap at home. In the 1700s, a Frenchman named Nicolas Leblanc invented a way to make soda ash, or lye. It made it a little more accessible, but it was very consuming and expensive to buy. In the 1800s, Ernest Solvay discovered a way to reduce the cost of making soda ash for soap making and commercial uses. However, the soda ash that he developed was really used in commercial products, but some people at home could use his product to make their soap. In 1900s, German scientists invented non-soap products called detergents. And interestingly, between 1916 to 1945, which was World War I and World War II, because there was a shortage of animal and vegetable fats, chemists in America had to find ways of making cleaning products, and they were able to do so, and again, they created detergents. So by early 1950s, soap was really not as popular, and detergents were surpassing the sale of soaps in the U.S. And today, although there are a few soap making companies on a commercial level, most true soaps are made by people like myself. This photo demonstrates how pioneers would make lye, and lye is a necessary component to making soap. If you don't have lye, you cannot make soap. And what they would do is they would take a basin and they would put rocks in the bottom, and then they would put straw on top of that, and then they would take ash from hardwood trees. So they'd take the ash out of their fireplaces, put it on top of the rocks and the straw, and then they would collect rainwater, because you had to use soft water to make the soap properly. And they would pour the rainwater on top of the hardwood ash and the straw and the rocks, and the water would filter through all of that, and it would come out of the bottom and be caught into a bucket, and they would have to then pour the water back over the top of the basin, and they would do this several times. And what they were doing is they were leaching the soda ash from the hardwood ashes from their fireplace. And they knew when the lye was ready to make soap when they would float an egg in the water, and about a quarter size of the egg would show through or be on top of the water, and the rest of the egg would be submerged under the water. Then what they would do is they would mix their lye water with fats and oils. So they would collect the fats from animals that they may have processed on their farm, and what they would do is they would boil that fat down, and they would then strain it so that it was very clean, and then they would mix that fat with their lye water. Most families only made soap one time per year, and then they would have enough to last them until the following year. So much soap making was done after the slaughter of animals for their food consumption. This was not a precise science, and sometimes their lye would be a little too strong, and it would give you what would be called a bite. And really all it means is it would be a little drying to the skin, and it would kind of give you a zap. It would sting a little. So why do we make soap at home now when we can go to any grocery store or pharmacy and buy our own soap? Well, we, first off, most of the soap in grocery stores and pharmacies is not soap. It's a detergent, so it's made with chemicals. And some people find these chemicals to be very irritating to the skin. Our soap, and I mean most soap makers, not just me, we use very natural ingredients. The soap can be very gentle on the skin depending on how you design your recipes. We like being self-sufficient, and it's really fun just to make soap. So what do we make soap with? The three basic ingredients are water, oils, butters, and fat, and sodium hydroxide or lye. So what type of oil, butter, and tallow do we use? We use a variety of vegetable oils, including olive oil, grapeseed oil, coconut oil, and that's just a few of many oils that we can use. We can also use cocoa butter, mango butter, kokum butter, avocado butter, and many other butters. The butter that you see on the plate is cocoa butter. We can also use what's called tallow, and again, that's the fat taken from animals, and you boil it, and it draws it basically melts, and then we strain it through a cheesecloth over a strainer to take all the impurities out, and we have now a solid fat. We actually render our own tallow from our sheep, and we render tallow from another farm's cows and pigs, and use that in some of our soaps, not all of them. And what else do we make soap with? Well, I mentioned lye. This is sodium hydroxide, also known as lye, and it's an alkali that you have to make soap. If you don't have that, you are not making soap. We also are able to add fragrances to make the soap smell the way we want them to. I use essential oils and fragrance oils, and sometimes I blend essential oils together and fragrance oils and make my own new scents. We can also use milk. This is goat milk that I have frozen, and we can also use sheep milk and cow milk. And the milk can actually help with skin problems because it's just very, very gentle to your skin. And what other stuff can we make soap with? I make a beer, whiskey, and wine soap, and I mix my sodium hydroxide with the beer, whiskey, or wine, and then I blend it with my fats. I have also used oatmeal. There's oatmeal in the soap in the picture to the right, as well as honey, and that's also in the soap in the picture on the right. We can also put salt in our soap and dried flowers and herbs. So how do we make the soap? Well, first we have to melt the butters and fat in a stainless steel pan. Once those are melted, we add our liquid oil. After our liquid oil is properly blended with the melted butters and fat, we can add our sodium hydroxide or lye to the water. And we do this when both the oils and the water are between 100 degrees and 110 degrees. Once we have mixed the butter, the fats, and oil with the lye water, you have to stir and stir and stir and stir some more. It can take upwards of 30 to 40 minutes of stirring your soap to get it to what's called a thick pudding. So once it's thick like pudding, you then pour it into a mold. So here's some soap that I poured into a very long wooden mold that I made, and then I cut it into bars. Now when the soap goes into this mold, it's like I said, it's like a thick pudding, but you let it sit for 1 to 2 days and there's a chemical reaction that takes place. It's called saponification. And basically it means that the oils and the lye water are reacting together so that they make soap. They are no longer considered oil and it's no longer considered lye, because it isn't. It's now made a completely different product in soap. So after our soap sits in the mold for a couple days, we remove it and then we cut it into bars. And it's very important that you let the soap air dry for 4 to 6 weeks before you use it. You can use it earlier, but it'll be soft and it won't last as long. It gets harder as it dries, and basically what that is moisture evaporating from the soap. Here's some finished soaps that I made in some fun molds for the holiday seasons. On the top left, the green soap is a goat milk soap that's blended with rosemary and peppermint oil. On the right, the black and white soaps are shaving soaps that men use to shave if they like to shave with a razor. And on the bottom is a snickerdoodle cookie soap, and it smells like a snickerdoodle cookie, and that would be a bath or hand soap. So the other things we make on our farm are facial lotions, and we make a hand and body lotion. We use only natural ingredients, and we only use the chemicals necessary to preserve the soap so that it doesn't get moldy or grow any type of bacteria in it, and to allow the water and oils to blend together and then stay together. We also make lotion bars and lip balms. And we have a shave soap and beard oil. Thank you, Longhouse Council Scouts, for watching my video on making soap. At some point in the future, I'd like to make a video where you can actually see me making the soap, but that's going to be for another time. Thank you and have a great day.